Good morning. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this morning, and we're about to get started here. This is BJ Lindgren from Synep North. We're the creators of eLogger, and I'm going to be conducting the webinar this morning. I will say the response was somewhat overwhelming, so there's an awful lot of you on the line this morning, and for that reason we have the phone system placed on mute, so we won't have any noise interference in the background other than me banging things on my desk. Towards the end of the webinar, time permitting, we will go ahead and open the lines up for questions, and I'll give you instructions at that time how to unmute your phones. If you'd rather wait until after the webinar and talk via email or telephone, that's absolutely fine as well. Additionally, if you're having issues hearing or viewing the screen, you can call the number that I've got up on the screen right now, or you can email our support email address and somebody will help you out and get those issues resolved. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the first scheduled webinar for us. We're going to try to schedule some different webinars covering some different topics every 6 to 8 weeks. And that said, we would love to hear your input regarding future topics. If you have an issue that you're struggling with, chances are that others are as well. So the next 2 webinars are going to cover some different methods for retrieving information out of eLogger, and then follow-up tracking utilizing the integration between eLogger and Trackit. The one today is just what it says on the screen, tips, tricks, and templates. We're going to go through templates in pretty good detail. I would be remiss if I didn't put in a plug for our new client referral policy. Everyone should have received a copy of the policy by now. If you haven't, let us know. We'll get one out to you. To summarize it just real quickly, if you refer someone to us for a demonstration, you get a free t-shirt. If they purchase one of our packages, your maintenance contract is reduced by the amount of the new maintenance contract that's generated. So it could be huge savings for your company. Additionally, the referred company can get 10 to 20% savings on the purchase of one of our products. So there's no limits, refer away. We're happy to take them. Before we get started, I just want to give a brief overview of eLogger and stress to you that its primary purpose is to provide shift-to-shift, day-to-day, week-to-week communications. That's what eLogger was created for, so the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. Over the years, this functionality has been capitalized on, and the method of communicating has just gotten better. eLogger has now evolved into a flexible system that is capable of way more than just communicating between the shifts. I would say all of you continue to surprise us with the different applications that you're using eLogger for. Today's demo is going to cover us creating an incident investigation form. In fact, I'm going to switch to that right now. This is the form that we're actually going to create. And keep in mind that it's not an actual form that you would probably use to investigate an incident at your company. It was created more just to show the versatility of eLogger. I personally would not use it to investigate an incident. It's strictly for demonstration purposes. So let's go ahead and get started, and we are going to go into eLogger. And we're going to go into the system administration screen. Now I've got my screen blown up a little bit here, so it's not quite fitting on the screen. I will make it smaller as we get out to the right and down towards the bottom so that you can see everything. But for right now, I'm going to leave the screen blown up a little bit. So the first thing I want us to take a look at is back under System Administration. I want you to look at the About tab in your own system. And you don't have to do it right now, but maybe after the demonstration. And the current version of eLogger is 2012.2. And if you're not at 2012.2, certainly contact us to get an upgrade scheduled, and we can get you up to the current version. I don't think I'm showing a whole lot of things today that were just released in this last version, but on the off chance that I do, that's probably why you won't see it on your system. So let's go ahead, and we're going to go back to the Word form that we're going to actually create, the incident form. And I'm going to explain a little bit about what we're going to do. We've got this incident investigation form, and in eLogger, I've already created an incident log. and a location hierarchy. And what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these sections on the report, and you can see we have classification, details, detailed description, and it goes so on down the form. And we're going to actually create templates for each one of these so that we have a data entry form that is pretty similar to this one on the screen. And then we're also going to collect a couple of signatures at the end, and we're going to do this via email, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Whoops, went one page up too far. So we're going to get started, and we're going to do the classification section. So let's go to eLogger, and I've actually printed out a copy of this for myself, and I'm going to refer to it so I don't have to keep flipping back and forth between the two, but I will, every time we start a new section, I'll go back and show you the form so you can see the comparison. Just a heads up for you here, I'm just using a real simple location hierarchy here with Synapse North being the main location, and then I have several departments created underneath it. And for logs, I have 4 logs created, and my incidents one I've colored red so that it stands out just a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and start creating templates. A template, again, is a data entry screen that can be attached to a log and location or different log location combinations as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually go ahead and put a title on this. And we know the log is incident, so we're going to call this classification because the first section of our screen was classification. And for a description, we're going to go ahead and this is where you can put instructions to your user. And rather than type out a whole bunch of information for them, in this case, I'm just going to put in, I can't type and talk at the same time, so you guys will have to kind of just bear with me as I type my way through talking. Okay, so I'm actually putting in some instructions to my users, and what I want to do is give them a link to a document that can explain it further rather than typing the whole works in here. And to do that, you can actually use some HTML code. And I am by no means an HTML expert, but I'm very good at copying and pasting. And so I'm going to put this in here, and there's lots of websites out there where you can cheat and find out what the codes are for putting links. So I'm just putting a link, and I'm just using google.com, but you know, wherever it is that your procedures are stored at, you would go ahead and put that link in here. So we've done that. The only other thing I'm going to do on this top of this template page is I'm going to create a category. And the categories are used to group like items together. And I want all of my incident stuff to stay together. So I'm going to create a new category, and I'm just going to call it incidents. Then I'm going to attempt to remember to link it to everything that I create here today. So I've created that and called it incidents. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to specify which logs and locations I want these templates to show up for. So for the logs, we want it to show up every time somebody enters an incident. And for the locations, I want all locations at Synapse North to use this same form. Now you could narrow it down and say, oh, this is just the Department A one, but for me, I want to do all of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and save that location. And then the next thing to do is we're going to actually go ahead and start creating fields. So down towards the bottom, there's a link that says Show Fields. And all of these links are used just to hide portions of the screen so that you have more real estate. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to add our first field. And our first field is actually the type. So the prompt is what shows up on the data entry screen, and the description is what shows up back under administration. So you can put something more descriptive. I don't typically, but you certainly have that option. I'm going to go ahead and make this a radio button. And I'm going to create a new list. And the items that are going to be on the list are my first aid, recordable, I'm going to spell it correctly, restricted duty, and lost time. So that's my list. If I want them in alphabetical order, I can go ahead and just add them and then click alphabetize, and it's going to alphabetize them for me. Up in the right-hand side, you see a preview of what the list is going to look like on your data entry screen. If that looks good enough, we can go ahead and save and quit it. And then I'm just going to go through for the next few fields, and I'm going to create them rather rapidly here so we do manage to get through this in an hour. So I'm going to create some new fields again, and I'm going to do the employee name. And I'll just copy and paste that down. And all of these fields are going to be drop downs. And I'm going to create new lists for them. But on this particular one, for the employee names, I actually want to copy and paste that from an Excel spreadsheet. And you can see I have this rather pathetic looking spreadsheet of employee names. And since I don't really want them to be in the format of first name first, I'm going to write a little formula to combine those. If I can find the equals key on my typewriter, there we go. So something like that. And then I'm going to copy and paste my new list back into eLogger and add those items. So now I've added my employee lists. I can see them up there in the preview for my employee name. And I'll go ahead and save and quit. So it's fairly easy to copy and paste in from Excel. My next field is department. And that is a drop-down list as well, and I have some departments in a Word file. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste them. And one more field for this first template, and that is the supervisor. And I think I have a list of them somewhere as well. I'll add those items, and I think it looks like I need to alphabetize those as well. Okay, so we've just created our first template. It's really that easy. Down towards the bottom of the screen, there's a link that says Show Preview. So if we want to see all together what our data entry screen looks like, we can see it down here at the bottom of the screen. So we've got our type, our employee name, we've got our drop-downs, our supervisors. We've not made any of these fields mandatory. I probably should have done that on the next data entry screen. I'll make some of the fields mandatory so you can see what they look like in that. So now I'm going to rip through and I'm going to create the rest of the templates. As you can see on our incident investigation form, we just created the classification section. Now we're going to do the details section, and then the detailed description and the injury specifics. So I'm going to go pretty quickly on these as well. So to create a new template, I should probably save this one first. I just click on the Templates tab and click on Add New. And this next one is going to be called Details. I don't really need any description on this one. I just need to put the logs and the locations that it's attached to. And then I'll hide that again. And I'm going to go ahead and start adding fields. And the first one is the date and time of the incident. And we don't have a field in